Good morning and welcome to Qdabra's weekly webinar. This has been a long time since we have done a webinar. It's been several weeks actually. We have only done a few this year, and I want to thank you for joining us. Today we have a wonderful new topic for you, which is thanks to Joanne. Joanne Tandon, who is a longtime Qdabra member, has put together this wonderful new technique for you. To begin with, I just want to quickly refresh you and let you know that we are a virtual company. We're happy to help you with your any kind of overflow needs you have, support needs during this pandemic. And we hope it ends soon. We hope you're safe. And we have been sheltering in place now for over a month, about for myself since early February, but for the rest of the team since early March. And we're hoping that we can help you in some way during this crisis through online courses, these webinars. And we also can help you work on those projects that you put on the back burner that you want to start working on now that you're working at home. Maybe you have some extra time. We'd be happy to help scope automating some of your business processes. And so that's our quick shout out. Thanks for being here. So today we're talking about separate panes in your form. And so forms typically today, look at, they're like one page. You can make them fancy. You can have overlays, pop-ups. We've done webinars on those topics. But today it's something new, and it's really refreshing to have this new technique that Joanne created just out of the blue. Very creative effort. And this technique can be used for two things. It can be used, well, for at least two things, possibly more. We're going to show how to display help text or reference instructions in the task pane, which is wonderful because you can anchor it there. People can scroll down through your form and they can continue to look at the instructions for how to fill out the form, or if they just need a reference. The other possible use for this is to do filtering or to do section hide and show. So if you have a very long form, like a dashboard form, you can do that. And we're going to quickly show what it is here in a second live, but just to give you a quick preview, we've included in this webinar a package that you can take and very easily add it to your forms to add a task pane. So here's the task pane on the left and here's the task pane on the right. We've got it in both places. I just want to ask quickly, I forgot to do this a minute ago, but I've got two quick polls for you just to kind of get us in the right frame of mind. So the first question is, do you have any forms with help text? And it looks like all of you do. Thank you for answering so quickly. And the next question we have is, do you have long forms? Do you have forms that are really large dashboards displaying hundreds of rows of data? Or do you have forms that are very long in terms of the fill out? You've got lots of fields. And this might be a little bit more of a difficult question. You might have to think about this for a second. But if you have a dashboard form, this is a great technique. And I should have probably clicked on launch before I did this. Sorry about that. So the poll is out there now, and it looks like everyone is indeed using, has some long forms. So thank you for being here. Short audience today. I'm glad you guys are here for us. We are recording, of course. Thank you for that quick poll there. So here's another image of a task pane. You'll see this live in a second. This is our volunteer site that Joanne has created. We've actually been going out and trying to help the local area frontline heroes, the healthcare workers, firemen, people who are responding to the sick people here in Washington. And so we put together this quick demonstration for you, showing the task pane on the right with images in it. So it can be very rich. I think that's the point here. These task panes, like I said a minute ago, you can have reference text, help text, guidelines that stay non-scrollable. So they're just anchored there for you to look at, or for your users to look at while they're filling out the form. So that's a useful technique. The other thing is, as we'll show in a second, is filtering to hide and show, or to restrict, to, I guess in some way you want to restrict the scope of what you're displaying. And that's what the second kind of idea there. But it also gives you a way to make your forms experience much richer. So with that, I'd like to ask Joanne to share out and do her quick demo, or two demos or three demos. Joanne?
Yep. So I'll share out my screen. Okay, so this is the sample task pane where the task pane is displaying to the right side. And to create a task pane like this in the form, the XSL has to be modified so that the columns have ID tags in it. And when they have ID tags for the columns, the styling can be defined in CSS. So when I was creating the task pane, I modified the XSL manually, but then I realized that the customers will request the same design for their forms. So I thought it would be wiser to have an XTP for it. So this is the task pane XTP. Basically, it's a section with form logic that you can easily plug into your forms. And the XSL for this XTP is already modified, so you don't have to redo that. And I'll show you how they work at the end of my demo. So if you'll get to our package, you'll see that the package has two sample Qdabra task pane XTP. One is the one which is showing to the left and the one showing to the right. So I'll start by creating a new blank form. And I will add the task pane XTP as custom control to my form. And I have already added it earlier, so I'll show you how to do that. Select template part, click browse, and browse to our package. And I always like it displaying to the right, so I'll use a task pane. All right, so finish. Okay, and I'll just go to my custom control here and select it so it will display in my view. And what you're going to do is save this. And upload it to Forms Viewer. Okay, if you open form, there's nothing there yet because we need to inject Q rules first. Click inject Q rules and go back to the upload template page and download the form template. Okay, and then we open the template in design mode. Now I have Qdabra rules, so Q rules is already injected. Select finished loading, and let's add a new rule here called load CSS. And I want to run this rule only when finished loading is equals to true. Add a new action, select set a fields value, and select the field from the task pane form logic called load CSS and set it to some value. I usually use that text go. And we're doing that because we're basically telling the rules here to run when it has the value go or any value in it, as long as it's not blank. So when it runs, it will run this command called load resource, and it will load the CSS file. That's what we're using to style the XSL. So here I'm using a temporary command in the XTP. So you will replace that with the actual Q rules command field. And that's it. Save this. And re-upload that to Forms Viewer. Click Open Form. So now you're seeing that the view has a task pane and the main content here. And the task pane has its own scroll bar, so it goes really long. Like I have the task pane XTP instructions here, so if you need that instruction, it's already here. So it has its own scroll bar, and it will scroll down, and the main content doesn't scroll away because it is being contained in a div in the XSL file. So the XTP has those placeholder section. These are just sample buttons where you can replace the button name, and use whatever you like to display in your sections here. And so I wanted to show you a sample of the XTP showing the task pane to the left. So this is the sample for that. So now you see that my form has the task pane showing to the right side. So it depends on what you want. So you want to display it to the left side, we also have an XTP for that. And this is the custom one. It's a dashboard for the Frontline Heroes project, and I customize it a bit to have tabs here for the information, and I have a filter tab here that switch to display some category selections here. And in the main content, I'm displaying a repeating table, which is querying some donations. And I can filter it using my task pane, so it's cool. And I have the information of the site displaying here. And if I want to display pictures, I can also do that and display links. So the task pane or the template XTP also features a fixed header and footer. So as you can see, the header is not scrolling, it's just fixed and staying on that place because we've defined it in CSS to have that property. And so it's really nice that only the content is scrolling.
I love how you got the footer there too with the version number. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's also in the XTP. So to show you, let me just close this sample form here, and I'll show you how the XSL and the CSS works at the back. So this XTP, I will export it as source files. Okay, and this is the view of that XTP. And in my XTP, as you can see, I have calculated value here that I'm just hiding, and I'm using that to reference it in the XSL. So let's look for that. So as you can see, the XSL for info path is a combination of HTML and XML tags, and there is a column group tag here that contains the columns for those two columns. These are just basically two-column table, and I've added a class here for the first column and also for the second column. And in my CSS, I'm referencing those classes. So for the first column, I want the width to be 80%, so that's the main column. And the column 2 for task pane is 20%. So I added that there. And then I added a div for the columns. So this is where the calculated value is. So I put a div tag just right before this font tag, and I called it main content. And for the task pane, there's also a div there called ID task pane, and that's also being referenced in my CSS here. So the properties that I use are position, so it's fixed. The column for the main content is fixed, and as well as the task pane. And I'm telling my CSS to display the main content to the left, further left, and the top 0, and the task pane to the right, the top 0. Width is also 80%. Width for the task pane is 20%, and I'm using height 100 viewport height, which just means that we're using the 100% height of the browser, whichever browser you're using. And I added a scroll bar. So this is a vertical scroll bar here, also this one. And I think that's about it. This is just telling the task pane to not display the horizontal scroll bar.
It's really amazing what you can do in CSS. I guess the one question I had, Joanne, is how did you have the insight? What sparked your imagination to try this? Because this was so clever. This is really I think you know, what do you call it? It's really unusual technique, which is really cool. But what made you think to try it like this?
Maybe because whenever we upload a form in the Forms viewer, it's actually displaying the form in a default manner. Like it has margins both in the left and right side, and it's making the form smaller. So it's like I'm looking in a small window and I can't see the sections properly. So I wanted to make use of the blank spaces on the side, and
Right.
I've always, yeah, yeah, I've always wanted to have this fixed menu on the right.
If you scrunch up the width of the browser, if you like reduce the width, is it responsive at all? I guess it is.
Yeah.
It's trying to be. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Well, this is really cool. It's such a clever technique that we have never even thought of before. So kudos to you for coming up with it. I think it's something that we're going to be using a lot more in all of our forms. And I just want to let everyone know that we are doing a training class next week. I think some of you actually may already be registered to attend it. Thank you for doing that. We have at least 2 of you now, Donald and Shane, that are registered for it. Thanks, Donald and Shane, for registering. So we're going to be presenting this topic again in next week's training class. Next week's training class is just 4 days. It's starting Monday. It's ending Thursday. It's just 2 hours a day or less. And we'll be starting that early on Monday morning. So if you haven't registered for that, we are at capacity, but we will allow a couple more seats. If you want to register for that, you can go to our website, click on education, and there's a link to register. So I'd just like to quickly come back to my screen, if you don't mind, Joanne. I'm going to share out and go back to the presentation. And we try to make these webinars short and sweet, and today I think we're shooting for that as well. Can you see my screen again?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah, so this technique, obviously Joanne gets credit for coming up with the technique. It's hers. She created it. She had the insight. It's wonderful. but she also gets credit for creating this wonderful, easy way for you to add it to your forms. And you may be thinking XTP, well, it's still InfoPath Designer. We're working on the form designer piece, and we hope to get that done this year. But in the meantime, Microsoft has said that InfoPath Designer is supported until spring of 2026. So we have another 6 years. And so we're still using these XTPs in the designer. They're not supported in the forms designer yet. We will have a technique for supporting them when we have all the canvas editing and everything else supported in Forms Designer. So we're still using InfoPath Designer to add these XML template parts, these XTPs, but this makes it really easy for you to add it to your existing form. And then you would, go into the existing view. So you'd create a new view and you'd add the XTP. Then you'd go back to your existing view. You do Control A, Control C, right? Copy the entire view, and then come back into the newly added view and paste it within that main content section. That should be possible. I don't know, Joanne, if you've tried that or not, but that might be one way for them to quickly take their existing form and just copy a view into it. Have you tried that?
Yes, you can actually use this in existing forms. I've already tried that.
And then just copy the whole view, right? Just Control A, Control C, and then switch views. And
Yeah.
Okay. But the key thing is that they put it in a separate view, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier. So we did a demo of that. We are delivering to local area hospitals. We're collecting masks, gowns, goggles. You're not supposed to be wearing a medical mask if you're a non-healthcare worker or non-frontline hero. You're supposed to be giving that to people that need them and wearing your cloth mask that your mom made for you or your wife or whoever. So I want to thank Joanne for also coming up with this wonderful demo today. So I mean, we've been doing this Frontline Heroes response effort for the last few weeks now, and it was great that she chose that as the demo form because we need something like that. Any questions? We have a question. Thank you for asking a question, Shane. Oh, it's a comment. Thank you for the work you're doing, especially for the Frontline Heroes. Yeah, it really helps to to have something to do at this time. And it's easy to deliver meals, to deliver masks to the hospitals nearby. We do have a lot of COVID cases in Washington. And when you visit the hospitals, you can tell how many COVID cases they have by how much social distancing they're practicing. Some of the nurses, they won't even get within 10 feet of each other. And you have to open the trunk for them and walk away, and then they get the food out and they put it on the cart. But the people who have the most COVID patients are the ones that have the best social distancing because they know it's serious. The other places they don't have any. They're still shaking. They're not shaking hands, but they're still close confines when we take pictures. So that's kind of interesting. So just a quick shout out for those of you who do not know. I think most of you have Forms Viewer already, but we are replacing InfoPath with this Forms Viewer app. It's an easy install. You just essentially go to the SharePoint App Store. You search for Forms Viewer or Qdabra, and you install it. Site Collection Admin. You can do it. You don't need to be central admin anymore. It is the easiest way to move off of InfoPath because you don't have to change your forms. I mean, minimal cost to convert them, if any. You just upload them, and if they've been on the site already, they'll just continue to work as they did. If you're moving them from on-prem to online, there might be some fix-ups. You might want to add data connections, dynamic data connections, so that you don't have to change the data connections. You might want to add the task pane. That would be a nice thing to add, right? That's only supported in Forms Viewer. You can't get that in Google Forms. You can't get that in Power Apps. It's just a Forms Viewer feature. And we have so many features like that that are unique to Forms Viewer because we love you and we want you to be able to take these techniques to the next level and really impress your customer base. So we have features like mobile integration for responsive design, responsive UI. We have the ability to send text messages to people to get their authentication and so on. And you get us as your support team on the side, your tier 2 or tier 3 support. And that means you have somebody there at your back to make you look good. And I just want to thank you for being here today. We are doing training next week, so we will not have a webinar next week, but we hope to do another webinar towards the end of the month. And the next topic is going to be how to use DBXL, how to use a SQL database to send notifications. One of the downsides of using Power Automate and Flow today is that it's not immediate, and we want to make our notifications more synchronous, more immediate. And so we have a really clever pattern coming up at the end of the month. I think it'll be in April. It might be the first week in May, but we have that coming up, and we'll be putting that on our website to tell you about that. Most of all, I want to thank Joanne today for making this webinar possible. She did everything, and I think we had one person work on the slides, Kirby. I didn't do anything, actually. I just was talking. But Joanne, way to go. This has been a huge highlight for this year so far, and nice job.
Thank you.
I hope you all have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Don't forget to register for the class if you want to go. And that's on our website. Take care. Talk to you soon. Maybe in a week or two. Bye-bye.